Chloe, so you are now a developer and an evangelist, right, at Code Fresh? Okay. So, but you didn't start that way. So what did you do before?
Yeah, so before I was a developer evangelist, I actually got my undergrad in theater performance. Both of my parents were artists. I had a playwright director for a father and a costume designer for a mother, so the arts seemed like a pretty, reasonable thing to go into. And actually what ended up happening was after I graduated with a degree in theater, I worked a lot of day jobs in tech. So I was an office manager, I was an executive assistant, so I was working at startups, but I really wanted to learn how to code. And I actually saw a talk at Google where they were talking about getting more young women involved in tech by adding more characters to Nickelodeon and Disney Channel shows. And I was sitting there in the talk, I was probably 25, thinking, well, where was this when I was a kid? I would have loved to have done this. And my partner is a Android developer. So when I mentioned to him, it's too late for me, he went, actually, you can still learn. So I ended up studying on my own, and I went to Hackbright Academy, which is an all-female software engineering boot camp. And many months later, I am here.
Well, congratulations, because that's. And so, did you have like a formal training then, or you just like studied? But so tell us more a little bit about that study.
Yeah, so I was performing as an actor for many years, kind of got to a point with it where I got a little bored. And I started studying on my own. I started with Swift. I kind of started the difficult way. And then I learned from a bunch of resources like Team Treehouse, I used Code Academy, and I'm very much a structured person, so it was very hard to be disciplined because I was working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and spending all of my evenings and weekends learning how to code. So when I heard about these boot camps that were popping up all over the Bay Area, I started looking into Hack Reactor and App Academy and Hackbright. Their mission statement of changing the ratio of women in tech just really resonated with me. So Hackbright is a 12-week software engineering boot camp in the city, full-time. So I quit my job and got into Hackbright, was accepted to Hackbright, and completely changed my life.
Wow. So any recommendation for people who have who may be like wondering like can I learn code, and how should I start? How should I go about it?
Yeah, so I think learning to code, anyone can do it. I definitely think you have to have a passion for it, for sure. The best advice that I can give personally is I think a lot of people are intimidated, especially if they get started later in life, like myself. That many kids now are learning to code in elementary school, and it can be very intimidating to go to some of these high school hackathons where everyone knows a lot more than you. But a benefit actually to coming into tech a little later is having that experience. And I think diverse candidates are really interesting because I come to the software engineering world with a theater background. And as you know, engineers don't really like talking in front of people very much. So I'm a very rare person who knows how to code, but also really loves speaking with people and speaking in front of people. Public speaking is something that it's hard to find developers who like to do that. Similarly, in my Hackbright cohort, there were some women who had worked in education, or they knew a lot about mapping, or all of these very interesting backgrounds that you can actually apply that to computer science. I actually think it gives you a leg up in a really cool way.
Yes, absolutely. Like diversity is very important. And diversity also for building software, right? Because end users are not necessarily developers, right? So at the end of the day, it makes a bit difference. Want to comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, I think that a lot of times when we talk about diversity, we always assume race and gender, but I think that diversity can also come in the form of background. I know I'm a very strong advocate for boot camps. I know there's a lot of we interviewed a boot camp grad once and it didn't go well, but not all boot camps are created equally. And I think that if you really want to hire diverse candidates, because I always see these talks where they're like, where are these candidates? They don't exist, these magical unicorns who, are diverse. But they're very much trying to get through the front door. And something that I say a lot to companies is a lot of times the application process, especially for junior engineers like myself when I was entering the workforce, are kind of a barrier to entry for people with diverse backgrounds, because oftentimes a recruiter will be given, a list of things like, okay, they need to know Python, they need to know JavaScript. I personally can check off those two things, but I don't have a computer science degree. And I think that if you make certain limitations on the credentials that you want for someone coming in, you're really limiting the amount of diversity you can bring in. So I'm a huge advocate for, because you talk to a lot of developers and they're self-taught, or they don't come from that traditional Stanford background. So I'm a huge advocate for non-traditional education, non-traditional backgrounds, getting more cool, exciting products out there, because the more people like myself, I know personally, I really want to make a lot of technological advances in the theater industry, since everything's on paper. So, and also getting that artistic eye just in the technical world, I think can be valuable. You can be, and you don't have to code. You can be a designer. There's so many different, stage managers are basically product managers. So there's a lot of really cool avenues from the arts specifically that you can go, but I think this applies to all backgrounds.
Yeah, I so agree with that. We tend to segment also our life, right, with like hobbies and then like engineering or work, and sometimes like we can find like actually ways to merge that all and to make it more interesting for yeah.
And I'll say that as an actor performing on stage, I never got to come to Napa, but now I get to perform on stage and come to Napa. So I kind of get to put the two things that I love together.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Thank you.
Thank you.